Contracts.
What was that?
The owl.
Oh, I'm like, it sounded like an owl.
Isn't he cute?
I
I
was
love
like,
the owl.
what?
I love when he talks. Is anybody on this now?
I don't think so.
Could somebody do me a favor and pull this up for me?
Like, Tanika, can you go on Zoom for this?
See if you can hear it. Oh, we need to talk afterwards, but. No, it's not bad. I just need to make sure I ask you. I keep forgetting to hunt you down.
While she's doing that, can we try and log into my, I want Google Drive.
Here, I'll let you do it. I think you should be fixed though.
Okay.
You should just be able to hear me constantly talking or nothing new or anything, but whatever. So you're getting the link up.
So what did you do to make him work?
I have no clue.
That's
To be
helpful.
dead honest with
Yes,
you.
magic touch.
No, I think it honestly needs a software update.
It's working.
Okay, good. Thanks.
No, I really think it needs a software update because we've been having issues with this
Okay.
since a couple weeks ago when somebody
Okay.
unplugged everything and let everything die.
Oh,
It's been fun. I'll spend some time up here tomorrow morning. Up in the
Okay.
Lily. Hi
Alright.
again.
okay. Well, that's always fun. I love when things work and then, whatever. Okay, so now I have to go to my Zoom. And I'm gonna do a share screen. Okay. So a lot of what we're gonna talk about today, client experience, is essentially stuff we've talked about during your orientation. But sometimes we forget, or orientation was very overwhelming because it was like 2 really intense days. Or, it was just, that was so long ago, or there's so much in the Google One Spot that we haven't gone back to look at and check things out. And so what I want to do is just talk about some things that you can do to give an outstanding client experience, because ultimately that's what's going to get us more business, right? If we give like 5-star service to someone, they're going to want to refer you. Tanika, what did you post yesterday on Facebook? Your client called you after you gave them the happy news, and what did the client say?
They were thanking me for my professionalism and being kind. Really excited that she has some money home for your home.
Yeah, and so she talked about your professionalism. She talked about, your strategy in writing the offer.
Yes.
She just talked to you about just getting the job done, being there, and, just winning, right? And so that's a super happy client. So right now would be an outstanding time for you to ask for a client review. We want to ask for client reviews in the moment when they're on a high, okay? They go to home inspection and then they realize the house isn't perfect. Guess what? There's no such thing as a perfect house. But now your home inspector just like burst the bubble, right? And they're just like, oh, or like closing gets delayed because of the lender and it has nothing to do with you, right? So when we ask when they're on like an ultimate high, or maybe you've just negotiated a home inspection and you got like 8 things to get fixed. And, the seller was saying initially it was as is and they weren't going to do anything. And now you're getting all this stuff fixed for them. Again, they're on a high. This is when you want to say, hey, if you feel like I'm doing, a superb job for you, I would love if you have any friends or family that are looking at buying or selling, if you could give a recommendation for me. But beyond that, my resume is online. So where people first come and check me out is where? Do you have a Google business page? So that's something that you can look at making. When you first create a Google business page, you have to put this office address down. And before you can go further and make any additional changes or like do client reviews or anything like that, you have to verify the address. So Google Business is going to send a postcard here. It's going to have a little code on it. You get the postcard, you put the code in, then you're free to go about and you can make all the changes you want to your Google business page. But you have to verify that you actually have a business at this location. Makes sense? Realtor.com. You all have profiles on Realtor.com, Zillow. You want to make sure that your profile looks good. What picture is out there? Is it just like the little head, the little bubble head? Don't have that. Put an actual picture. Put a bio up. And then ask clients to go to, again, we're not promoting the use of Zillow, but where do most clients first start their searches? Zillow. Or Realtor.com. So if you have a nice profile page with client reviews and ratings, how about your Facebook business page, right? So we want to have, a 5-star client experience. And so when you first start working with someone, you can even just bring it up from the start. Say, my goal in assisting you with your housing needs is to, provide 5-star service. Because at the end of the day, I would like to ask you for referrals of friends and family. I'd love for you to promote my business. And I'd love for you to give a glowing recommendation of me. So if at any time I'm not providing 5-star service, let me know so that I can step it up, right? I told you this earlier in coaching, someone just told me yesterday that I wasn't giving good communication because I didn't text back like this, right? And I thought I had text back and I had done what she had asked and I communicated with a contractor. And in my mind, I had texted her. So she calls me Sunday and I had done this task on Saturday. And Saturday I had just flown in, so she knew I was gone. But I initiated contact. I checked in with her and then I didn't reply. So she calls me Sunday. Where are you? What's going on? I'm not feeling like I'm getting outstanding communication. I'm just going, okay, let's make sure that we change things. And I apologized. I said, you know what? In my mind, I did this text and I read her the text that I sent to the contractor. I laid out for him the times that we were doing our photography. We didn't want him doing masonry work while our photographer was there yesterday. I talked about how great the weather looked for Monday through Wednesday and that we're going live on Thursday afternoon and we're going to have showings Friday evening and all day Saturday. So if we can avoid those times for the finish of this work, that'd be great, right? So I told her, I said all of that to him and he hasn't gotten back to me. And so we don't know when he's going to show up, but they've been in contact with him as well. So it's like she just wanted kind of an extra push because it was someone that I had recommended. So you have to communicate with people in the way that they want to be communicated to. And if they want to be replied to, like presto quico. So then yesterday after I left her house, I'm in coaching and she's texting me. And so I'm like texting, sorry, I'm in meetings until 3:30. So I text her while I was in the meeting because she's calling me. And then she called me again. And so she left me 2 messages about other questions that she had come up with. Even though we had just spent like 5 hours talking about every detail, she had additional questions. So I needed to respond back and I told her I was in till 3:30. So I made sure that by 3:33, I was on the phone calling because I had told her when I was going to be available. So don't overpromise and underdeliver, right? Underpromise, overdeliver. You know that, Kathy, right? So anyhow, what I'm going to play around in a little bit is in the one spot, we're going to look at, there's a client experience folder. And then I also want to hop out into buyer consults and the listing presentations and just show you some things. And the reason that I'm dedicating like a whole class time to this is just to refresh your memory, bring back to light some forms that, you might not go seek after on your own, right? So the first time that you talk with someone, you might want to have a client intake form. There's two different versions here. But when you first start that first interaction with your client, are you saying, why is it doing this? I just want to open up the document. Wants to bring me to a different site. Here we go. Okay. So what you want to do is make sure, are you asking the same questions? Are you digging deep? You know, you might get a phone call and you're in the car. Well, do you have a folder with some buyer lead sheets or intake sheets in your car? You know, do you carry your bag or, you know, like next to the car and the console where you're like shifting, even if you have automatic, you know, there's a little slot. I'm using my left hand, but you know, it's on the right side, right? When you're driving. But, you know, can you keep a little folder right there where you have like a seller intake? Maybe you just need to pull over, or maybe you need to just say, oh my gosh, it's so great to hear from you. So, you know, Johnny told me that you might be giving me a call. I'm actually driving right now and I'm on my way to meet another client, because you've got to be there at a certain time, right? So you don't want to be late for one client because you're pulling off the road to do an in-depth intake. So you got to think about, how much time do I have? Am I just driving home? Am I driving to pick up the kids? Am I driving to the grocery store? Pull off the road and just say, oh, just give me a quick second. I want to pull off the road so that I can give full attention to our conversation. And I just want to make sure that I can take some notes. And people will appreciate that you want to listen and that you want to really hear. But, you know, important question. Has anyone else, another agent, taken you out to see properties? You know, so how is that going, right? And, oh, that's not going well. Okay, so that's why you're calling to get me involved now. By the way, did you happen to sign a buyer agency, right? No, I didn't sign anything. Did you happen to write an offer? Yeah, we wrote an offer. Oh, okay, is there a chance that when you wrote an offer on something that they slipped in buyer agency? Because, you know, when we did our orientation, what are people afraid to do? Sign, but what are the agents afraid to do? Sorry. Ask. The agents are afraid to propose on the first date, right? Will you be my client forever, right? So they're afraid to ask. You know, who's buying the house? Who's going to be living there? How long have you been looking? You know, why are you moving? Who else is helping with the decision making? You've got a young person, you know, doing their first purchase, mom and dad. Okay, do mom and dad need to just show up at the home inspection? Why not? No, but if you write the offer and mom and dad show up at the inspection, then what can happen? They can talk them out of the house, and not based on one of the defects in the property, right? They can just go, oh, you paid what for this? And why did you bid this? If mom and dad are going to be at all involved, mom and dad need to be involved right away. Like, I need to meet mom and dad. They need to have faith and trust in me, because otherwise mom and dad think that it's still like 2007 and you can lowball, you know, 15 grand under asking. They haven't bought or sold property in how many years? They don't like eat, sleep, live, and breathe real estate like you do. And so they need to be involved. They need to come out on house showings. Like, they can't be just showing up at the tail end, right? So we need to be asking questions consistently, you know, of people, not just for, you know, discrimination and, you know, those types of things, but for your information, so that you're getting as much knowledge about the person as possible. So that's going to start your client intake off on the right foot. You're going to be providing 5-star service because you're digging, you're learning more about them. And maybe you aren't going to do this over the phone. Maybe you're simply going to say, I'd love to sit down and chat with you and learn more about your home purchase and your desires, your wants and needs. And so maybe you're going to have them come into the office, and then you're going to ask them this face to face. You know, so that it's up to you on how you want to do that piece.
Stephanie, do we have these?
Yes, this is in the one spot, and I'm in the client experience folder. Yep. So that's where I'm just going to play in this folder primarily. And then also in the one spot, I'm gonna go into the buyer consultation, and I'm gonna go into listing presentation. And so I'm pulling this up because I want you to see that all of these are here at your fingertips. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I'm so glad I'm taking this today.
Yeah,
I had already started the contact part of the
Oh,
document,
yeah,
so I can stop.
yes, yes. And I know that I talk about this during orientation, but
There's so much.
your brain is like overwhelmed. There's so much content, and you're like, what'd she say about this? And I had someone doing their first listing last week. And he said, he called me over the weekend. And so Monday, I got him some information. But what I did, and I want to do more of this, I find that I'm answering the same question repeatedly for multiple people. What I want to do is do a quick little video and say, hey, congrats on, the possibility of getting your first listing. Here's a little refresher, make sure you charge $295. Otherwise, the broker admin charge from the office is going to come off your commission, right? Make sure you bring a tape measure with you. Make sure you bring the real estate condition report. Oh, by the way, don't help them fill it out, right? Like, just here's some quick reminders. Well, what I did is I grabbed like 8 pages from the listing section. Instead of telling him, go to the compliance orientation and look at the listing section, I grabbed those, made a PDF. And so now I've saved this as listing info, an email template. Because the more that, what were they just talking about in the team meeting? Katie was talking about systems, creating, and Sharice was talking about too. Create a system. If you find you're doing the same thing over and over again, create a system and implement a system and do the same thing every time. Because then you're not going to forget something, and you're going to remember, each stage of the process. So what I want to do this quarter is try and create more of those kind of like preventatively in advance of you guys calling and asking for something. Just say, okay, what have I been called on in the past? Let's create an email template so that when the question arises, it's not a 45-minute conversation. Like, here's your tips. Go check this out. Watch my 3-minute little video. And then if you still have questions, then let's talk fine tune about the form or filling something out. But for me to do the same thing, right, when there's 30 of you, it's easier if I can replicate myself and, repeat. So in part of that, there's a checklist on here. And I think you were talking to Nika, and this triggered my ear last night when we were on the phone. I was like, I hope she's not making her own little checklist. Sure was. Okay, and I know I showed this one too, but we'll give you grace on that. Okay, so checklist. Now, this might not be perfect for you. It is really warm in here today. It's like, if you guys want to get up and turn on the air conditionings, like be my guest. But yeah, and Kathy's like gonna put on her coat and like,
My gloves.
whew, yeah, it's like
You're used to
84.
California.
Yeah, it's 84 in here. Okay, so if this is not perfect for you, this is a Word document. Make a copy of it before you start editing, because again, even though this is a copy in the folder, anytime you take something from the folder, whether it's a presentation or a document, you do a copy up. So when you go and you just hit file and you say make a copy, it's going to give you the name and it's going to start out saying copy of, copy of. Delete all that mess and just say Tanika's file checklist. Boom, right? Now you save it onto your own hard drive, or it's Yvette's buyer presentation. Like you save it as what you want it saved as. This for me walks me through, because we're pretty much paperless. All of our offers, we're just emailing them. We download it, we save it, we upload it into Command. And, so how do you stay on top of your transaction? That's part of, stellar client experience as well, is not missing your dates and deadlines. And so that's where you have to have a system. So for me, I'm asking myself, is this my buyer? If yes, then I'm going to add them to my home anniversary campaign once they close. Who's the seller? What's the MLS number? Address, emails, price, closing dates, the lender, the co-broke, title company. So this, you'll see I've got two questions. Who's the title company that the seller is using? So if you're writing the offer for the buyer, again, there can be two title reps in every transaction. So let's say that we're dealing with a Shore West listing. So Susie from Shore West, because I like those, what are they like? It's not an acronym, but it's when the, you know, S&S, like, yeah, you guys are not fooling with me here. Come on, wake up, we're having fun. Okay, so, but you know, Susie from Shore West, she uses Heritage Title because it's on site, just like we would use Focus Title because they're here. We love Lit. So, but you have to talk to your lender because if your buyer is not using Bill the banker, like, because Bill would certainly, you know, have Lynn do the buyer's closing and, you know, we would close here in-house. But if your buyer's like, oh, I'm using, you know, XYZ Bank because I've had my checking there for 20 years, okay, they're not going to treat you any nicer. In fact, they're probably going to like delay your closing because we know that some of the time brick and mortar banks are excellent at the teller line and the like the personal banking, but not the mortgage experience. Most mortgage lenders like 10 years ago left the big banks and went to like the mortgage banking locations. So that's where we've got like Bill, even though it's Bank 5-9, they have more like a mortgage banking hat, like A+ Mortgage, Provisor, you know, these types of entities do more mortgage related. That's like their focus. So we want to ask the lender that the buyer has selected, who are you going to have close the deal for the buyer's side? Oh, well, where's the seller going? I'll just piggyback with them. And you're like, oh, okay, we're just gonna have one title rep. Woohoo, right? So then you write it down. But if there's two, if he says he's using First Service Title over on Highway 100, well, now you know that you have to introduce the lady at Heritage who's sending you the title with the person at First Service who's going to be doing the buyer's side of the closing. So they need to be able to talk to each other. They have to send the documents back and forth, and you have to schedule the closing, and everyone has to be in cahoots, right? So when was the offer written? When are we going to have loan commitment? What's our inspection deadline? So we've got all our deadlines here. Then here's the question. How often do you guys run into properties on well and septic? Are you selling out in Waukesha County or in Racine County? Or are you primarily in Milwaukee County where you're going to be on municipal water and sewer? You know, but if you come across a property that's on well and septic, how do you remind yourself, oh yeah, I got to do something different here, right? So is the property on well and septic? And then I just have it abbreviated here. Is well and septic testing ordered? Who orders well and septic testing? Okay, but more specifically, okay, the seller. It's not a home inspection unless, like in this market, when we've been doing some kind of different alternative things to win over the seller and make our offer stand out, we have had buyers say, hey, I'll cover that, you know, well and safe water testing, $400, or well safe water and septic pumping and testing, $800. I'll pay that for you. I got it. So then you and your buyer need to schedule that, right? But in a normal transaction in our market, the seller is ordering that. So we just need to check with the listing agent. Hey, has your seller scheduled the well, safe water, and septic testing? We need to know, because when is that normally due? You know, from your addendum A?
By the time the inspection contingency is ready. How many days?
Yeah, so how is the well and septic phrased? It's phrased differently than the home inspection contingency is. So it's not so many days from accepted offer. It's page 1 of your addendum A. Sounds like you guys need to go back and read it. Make sure you know. It said, not an A, because would you want to buy someone a $20,000 septic system if it fails? Okay, so it typically says within blank days from closing, and the parentheses, if nothing is written in, the default is no later than 15 days from the date of closing. So what that means is that it's not from the start of your offer, it's from the back end. So you go from the closing, if you're closing 45 days out, then it's due 30 days from accepted offer, but you count backward. So it's due 15 days prior to closing. But like Kathy was saying, is normally the seller doesn't want to order it until your home inspection is done and agreed upon. Because they don't want to spend $800 if you're not going forward on the deal. So that's where you get into kind of this wonky timing. I think in orientation, the example I gave is if you're doing a 30-day close and you have a 15-day inspection contingency, but your well and safe water is due 15 days prior to closing, that's the same day. So basically, the seller would have needed to order that on day one because it can take 5 days for the water guy to get out there. And then it can take 10 days to get those reports back. So on day one, if it's ordered, 15 days later, it'll arrive, and now you've made it for 15 days prior to close. But if you're waiting until inspection's done, they're not even gonna get those reports until like 2 days before closing. So then you'd have to be okay with that in your offer. You can write in 5 days prior to close. That's acceptable as long as it's acceptable to you. But if your underwriter isn't going to approve the loan until they see the clean bill of health on the well and septic, then you might have an issue with loan commitment deadline and getting clear to close and getting scheduled to close. Then you're looking at doing amendments and extending things, and then that can cause other issues, right? So this just is reminding you, to watch out for well and septic.
Stephanie, isn't that report for well and septic only good for a
Yes,
certain
it
period?
also says in the addendum A on page 1 of the addendum A, the 4-page GMAR addendum A, right? Because we're not using any other one but the GMAR. It does say within, X number of days prior to closing, and not any older than, like stale dated. I forget how the wording is, but like it should not have been ordered any earlier than 60 days prior to closing. So here's where that comes into place. Nikki and I have a deal going. I order well and septic for my sellers. I help them through that process. Nikki bails on the transaction. So then we now have Kathy come along to do a transaction. And by the time Kathy's come along, my well and septic testing is 60 days old. And so now when I go to close, the lender reviews it and they're like, oh, this is too old, do it again. And the seller's like, huh? That's where most sellers want to wait until the buyer is settled with their home inspection so that they know that they're comfortable spending $800. We're actually closing. Now, can stuff still happen? Yes. The buyer can lose their job, the house cannot appraise, and the seller is not willing to take a hit on the price. Buyer didn't have appraisal gap coverage, right? They're not paying you the difference. Buyer can go out and get a timeshare. This just happened to me in December. So I had a listing. Buyer got a timeshare, had a $121 monthly payment on her credit report. This is the day before closing. We have a 9 a.m. Friday closing, like December 17th. It was beautiful. So Thursday the 16th, they run her credit because they check your credit and they check your employment either the day of or the day before closing. They double check. So she now has this $121 bill and it throws her debt to income ratios. No longer can afford the house. And my seller and I are you kidding me? So we have a back-to-back. We're supposed to sell at 9 and then go purchase at 1 because they were two different title companies. So when the title company A is wiring the seller proceeds to the next title company, you have to allow at least 3 hours for the federal wire to hit. So you can't close at 9, close at 10, unless everyone's one happy family and all using the same title company. The money's already in-house then, they have it. It doesn't need to be shipped. You can't take a $50,000 check from one title company with your equity, your net proceeds, and go bring it to, does anyone know why? You could deposit the check. You can use your phone, take a picture of that bad boy, and now the check is no good. They're gonna find you out anyway. I mean, even though you hand them the check, 2 days later, they know where you just bought your new house, right?
Yeah.
Duh, like, they can find you. But because it has, in Wisconsin, we are a good funds state. So many title companies require that anything over $5,000, some title companies, it's 10 grand. They just have their own like kind of like risk tolerance. But typically if your buyers bring in more than $5,000 to closing, it has to be wired. They don't want your check to go bouncy, right? That's no bueno. So who sends the wire information to your buyer?
Your wire information?
Yeah, so the buyer needs to wire the money to the title company for the day of closing. So we're closing at 9, they have to go to the bank and send it before 3 o'clock the day before because it takes 3 hours. So who's sending them the wire instructions for where they need to send their money to?
Title.
The title company, thank you. So on your NBR disclosure, which is a required form in your files for both buyers and sellers, thank you. The NBR disclosure talks about the fact that we have relationships with Focus Title and Bank 5-9 and Keller Mortgage and Keller Covered and HSA Home Warranty. But it also, in bright red ink, it talks about wire fraud and that we will never send someone wire transfer information. Your buyer needs to get that from the title company and they need to call the title company based on other emails that you forwarded them with the title. They should look up the phone number, you know, but when someone sends them wire instructions, do not call the phone number on that email. Because if someone has hacked an email and if they say it's from Kathy Klotz and say your email is K Klotz and it just comes from Klotz, right, instead of K, like KK, then someone can look at that and go, oh yeah, Kathy just sent me my wire instructions, right? But it's wrong. And so if that's, say, the title rep, you know, who's sending it, you know, and so their email address is wrong by like 1 letter. So this hacker now has changed the account numbers on where to wire. Do you think that they've changed the signature line and changed the phone number? So you don't ever call based on where the wire instructions have come from. You look up from a different email or you look up on Google, you know, white pages, whatever, and you call and you verify, not you, but the buyer. So you need to advise your buyer of that, okay? So who orders the home warranty? Is that always true?
What if the listing has the seller's agent has a warranty? So we wouldn't be.
Okay, so if you're saying if the listing has already ordered the home warranty
Yeah,
and
it's
they're
like coming with
offering
warranty,
it.
yeah.
Okay, here's the question. How did you write your offer? Right? Because you, when you write the offer as the buyer's agent, you strike out seller shall pay for, right? So you're striking buyer, and then you're either striking listing or selling. So you're designating listing agent is ordering it and you're giving it to them, or you're saying selling agent, I'm taking it and I'm ordering it, right? So what do you have to do when you order the title? Or sorry, wrong word, the home warranty. When you order the home warranty, where does it have to go? How's it get billed? How's it get paid for?
To the title.
To the title company, right? Because the title company sometimes will read through your offer and they'll go, hey, Steph, you owe me a home warranty invoice, so that they can put it on the closing disclosure. Because what happens if she never sends the invoice to Lynn and Lynn never reads it on there that there was a home warranty that was supposed to be in, and the closing disclosure doesn't have a home warranty charged on it, and it never gets billed to the seller and we close?
And you
And-
pay for a warranty.
Well, No, because what if it's not found out at the closing? So what if they call you 3 months later and they have a no heat call?
There's no home warranty.
There's no warranty because it never got paid for. Can you go back to the seller and say, hey, you were supposed to buy this? Because it closed. So you got to read your closing statements. This is all part of client experience. I know it sounds like nitpicky stuff, but guess what? That's what client experience is. We got to cover all the nitpicky stuff so that they don't have to worry about it. We need to give an outstanding client experience so that it seems smooth and flawless on their side of the deal, right? So what I'm saying here is take a picture of the buyer's house for marketing. So why would I want to do that?
Advertisement for yourself as well,
Okay, it's advertisement. So I can't just go into MLS and grab,
not
It's
your own.
illegal.
oh, I can't. Okay, good. I'm so glad you guys know that. You may not. So let's say that it's Zach Shipley from our office, right? I'm just gonna pick on him. He has a house that was listed. You did a deal with him. Now, you probably could call him up and go, dude, can I borrow like picture number 1, the exterior front photo? Like, can I use that? And say, hey, guess what? I sold this house, da, 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 you know, congrats to my buyers. Yeah, you could probably do that. But are you doing that with First Weber? Can you grab First Weber's listing photo? What if you're listing a condo and there's a gym and someone's got this beautiful shot of the pool and it's winter and the pool's closed? Can you go on to First Weber's listing and just borrow that pool picture? No?
You can do it if you ask for it.
Yes, you
But
have to ask for it.
go to
Yes.
the-
You'd have to go to whomever. So what you'd want to do is look up that condo, look up the street address, and look at all the recent sales. See if there's a KW sale in there. See if one of our agents sold one. See if they had really beautiful photos of that pool. Call up our agent and say, hey, is it okay if I, borrow your picture of Cobblestone's, pool and community center?
So for compliance, I thought Chris also said that you're not supposed to ask the agent, you have to physically ask no.
Not the photographer,
You
but
have
the
to ask
firm.
KW,
It's the firm. So
first.
if it's our own office, I guess I have a question on that because I feel like if it's our office,
Okay.
I guess you can go to Chris. I don't know how many of those calls she wants to field about,
Right.
can I use, I already talked to Zach and he said I can use his picture. Is that okay with you?
So it's more
guess-
of if it's like First Weber
I
or
think
somebody
the
else.
problem comes in because KW to KW, we're not gonna, now, if it's our market center, fine.
Okay.
If it's North Shore, that's not ours, right? North Shore and Lake Country, that's not Scott. That's a different operating principle.
Okay.
So I would caution you on that. I think if it's in our office, you can still text Chris and say, hey, I've talked to this listing agent. Is this good? She'll probably just give you a thumbs up in a
Okay.
text, very quick and easy, right? I think the problem comes in where people are going out and grabbing like Shore West First Weber and they're not asking. And then someone sees it and they know, and then they're calling and then these people are getting in trouble. So that's where that comes in, okay? So I've got on here, home warranty invoice sent to title, yes or no? So it's just kind of guiding you through, did I, right? What happens a lot when we have a transaction with another agent is that they won't accept your offer, they'll counter you. And they won't send you back the offer or the addendum A signed by the seller. They'll just simply send you the counter. What's wrong with that?
They need to see the original offer to see what other
They-
protocols.
Yeah, they all need to travel together. So you shouldn't just be sending a counter offer back and forth. Even if you have the counter offer and then you attach the other PDFs, they should all travel together in the same email, right? So what happens is that listing agent takes the counter offer, has their seller sign it. When they do that, they should be signing page 10 of the offer to purchase, that it's been countered, and they should be initialing your page 4 of your addendum A. So what I've got here is do I have my full offer docs? Do I have page 10 of the offer? Do I have page 4 of the addendum A? Do I have the addendum S for lead-based paint? And do I have the real estate condition report? Like, I'm just asking, do I have everything? Do I have all the documents that I need in order to upload into Command so that I can get my file approved? So I'm just asking some questions to kind of walk you through. If you feel that you want to change this and update different things, go for it. But it's just meant to be kind of a guide to help you not miss any of those important orders that you have to place, or, you know, review certain things, miss deadlines, that kind of thing. All right, so now you have an accepted offer. Right here, we've got this buyer congratulations. This is kind of like a fill in the blank for you. So congrats on accepted offer. Here are your next steps. Turn in $3,000 earnest money to, you know, obviously you're going to change this. But rather than just saying it can be emailed to and giving them the address, you can do it through MLS trust funds. And so you can say this can be done electronically. I've sent you an email, or maybe you send them a text, you know, but you're going to let them know, like, you make up a word. So I always just use new home, you know, all just, you know, all the same, no capitals or small letters. I just make it all the same. You have to tell them when it's due. I mean, do they know? Do they understand? Like, what are the consequences of not getting your earnest money in on time, right? Like, you can lose the house. They can take someone else. They can give you a cancellation because you're in breach of contract. So you're telling them that they need to do that. Contact your, Bill Miller to schedule a time to sign your disclosures and turn in the rest of your personal documents. Because they're like, oh yeah, I'm good. Like, I already got a pre-approval. No, you need to start a formal loan application. There's more. Now you need to sign like all your loan application documents and your disclosures. You have to lock in your rate. There's more. And here's a list, a few things that you might want to have ready in case you haven't turned these in already. So you're helping them. Now, schedule the inspection ASAP. These dashes are here so that you can insert 2 or 3 of your favorite inspectors. You can ask me, you know, you can ask your mentor. You can, I was gonna say you can look downstairs, but I know they took out some of those. You can look on our preferred contractor list. But, you know, you want to give a couple. What I typically do though, and I think I mentioned this during orientation, is even though we want to give several names, I'm giving them up front. When we start working together, when we're doing our buyer consultation, I'm giving the names and saying, here are my 3 preferred home inspectors. They give a phenomenal report. It's easy to read. It's easy to follow. They give a summary. They have photos. They have diagrams. So it's going to be an education for you. They might get a name from a coworker. And I've had this happen where the guy took like 10 pictures on his cell phone, text me the pictures. He had an old-fashioned front and back handwritten inspection form. He scanned a PDF of the fronts, scanned a PDF of the backs, couldn't even figure out how to make his copy machine, like, you know, do front and back, right? So myself and the listing agent are both going like, what is this? What? Like, what does this pertain to? Like, what does this mean? Like, what is this a picture of? Like, there's no explanation of the picture. There's no diagram. There's no arrow pointing at what we're looking at. I mean, it's just, you can also get inspectors that freak out your buyers. You want to have inspectors that are good, that are knowledgeable, but that also understand that we have a job to do at the end of the day. And you're not going in there asking for 26 bullet point items. We're not rebuilding the house. You know, we're going to look at what are defects, what's important. And, you know, a lot of this is welcome to home ownership. Here's your honey-do list, right? So it's not, yeah. So what I'm doing when I'm writing my offer to figure out what date I'm using for my inspection is I'm texting these 3 guys going, what's your first available? I'm writing an offer, just want to kind of get an idea. And if somebody says, yeah, I'm 18 days out, I'm like, yeah, bye. You know, and then one guy says, oh, I could do Tuesday. Perfect. All right, so Tuesday, let's add on 4 more days. Now I know that I've got like 8-day or 12-day inspection contingency, and that's how I'm gonna write my offer, because I know when I can get someone out there. Then I'm saying that I'm gonna write the loan officer an email, and I'm gonna ask them to hold off on the appraisal. This doesn't work in every case, right? We talked about this during orientation. If we're doing a 30-day close or a 25-day close, and these people gotta get into this house, they need to move, we need to have that discussion. You're gonna be paying for a home inspection, you're gonna be paying for an appraisal. If the home inspection doesn't work out with the seller, like, you know, this is what's happening. Like, do you feel confident enough about this house? You know, there's no big cracks and, you know, moving walls and big mold stains everywhere and leaking plumbing that we can see right away. Like, obviously, you're not the inspector, but, you know, has the listing agent said in big bold letters, as is sale, don't come asking for $3 worth of stuff, right? Like, you know, so do we have an understanding that it's reasonable that if something came up, we might be able to ask, right? So are you comfortable spending money on the inspection and it's their decision, right? But if that's your time frame, they're gonna have to go ahead with that. Because again, you can't do a 12-day inspection contingency, have your, you know, loan commitment due in 22 days and basically be giving your lender 10 days then. Once you're done with your inspection, go, okay, we're ready now, ready, set, go. And he's got 10 days to finish out the 22 days. Because his 22 days does not start from your inspection. His 22 days starts from acceptance. And if you just ate up 12 days, you're only leaving him 10. So you have to understand that. But if you've got a 45 or a 60-day window, you can ask that lender to hold off, you know, wait until I give you the thumbs up. So this is just where you can then give the loan officer a copy of the offer. That also helps so that if you've got a buyer who's a procrastinator, they're just super busy at work, or they're gonna now get on the phone and decide to call 12 other lenders and go, let's shop rates. Now the lender that they started working with originally is gonna have a copy of their offer. Hey, I'm working on your loan disclosures. Here's the interest rate, we can lock you in it. We need to get together. They're gonna be pushing as well. We need to get this done. Like, they can't spend 5 days. You know, you have to apply for your loan in a timely manner per the offer to purchase. That means like now, you're not waiting 5 days, because if everything's due in a certain time frame. And then, of course, if there's well an inspection, then you would have a note here. Of course, you could delete that. So this is just kind of a template. Does everybody know in Gmail how to do a template? Okay, so let me go here and go into my email. You have to turn it on. I thought forever that Gmail would not allow me to do it. And then someone showed me and I went, oh, yay, because I love templates. Again, if you find yourself writing the same thing all the time, so you have to go up into your settings, the little gear, and you're going to go to see all settings. This is also where you go to put your email signature if you weren't aware. So if you scroll down, your email signature is down here. So if you have one built for you, or if you make one, you can put it in here and then you save it. You have to say what emails you want it used on, because otherwise it won't work. If you just put it here, it's not going to do anything. So like I had this one with the little house. And actually that's the one that I'm using, is that one from KW Designs, because that's what it says, Designs eSig. This was a different one that I had. Anyway, when you're in here, let's see. I always have to figure out where the, whatchamacallit is. Let's look at accounts. So there's something where you turn templates on. Maybe it's in advanced. Yeah. So in advanced, so under your settings, see all settings, you go to advanced, and then you just have to click enable for templates. Okay. So then when I go back to my email,
save changes at the bottom. Will it automatically do it?
Yeah, you'll wanna save that. Okay, so if I go here. How do I- Okay. Okay. I'm trying to, so you go and you compose an email. So I hit compose. I have all these little screen and window things open on my window here. Okay, so if you go here, and again, this is popping in my way, so let's move this over here. Okay, so you go to these three little dots to more options. The first time you do it, let's say that I had typed an email. So I type it up, I go to the dots and I hover on templates. What you would do the very first time is you would type the email first, and then you'd hover over and you'd say save draft as template. And then you would move over here and then you would say save as new template. And when you click on that, it's going to ask you to write a name for it. So I have these like what to do before orientation. So when someone joins, I give them some guidance as to what to do because their orientation might be 2 weeks from now. Here's that listing info guide. So I have like asking for a review from a seller and asking for a review from a buyer. Why are they different? Because the buyer one, I say, hey, it's been a week. I'm sure you're getting, the pile of boxes down, and if you have 5 minutes to sit down and kick your feet up, I'd love if you take a few minutes and write a review for me. So that's where like I haven't drafted specifically for buyer versus seller because the wording is just a little bit different. But here's like my congrats accepted offer one. And then because it's there, you can tweak things each time. So you would just save that.
Is there a place that there be like templates in one spot, like what you kind of wrote, or?
I think that's the only one. Like this here is a template. So buyer congratulations. So you would just copy this. So when you have it open, you would just highlight this, copy it, go and start an email, paste this, and then go to your three dots and save it as a template. I don't know that there are other emails in here. Are you talking about like asking for a review?
Yeah, just the templates you have, like if you have any, so it
Oh,
can be just like. that.
oh, yeah, flattery, right, is okay. What do they say, like, copycatting is like the best form of flattery? Yeah, I can bop them in there. Let me put a to-do for myself. Review templates. I'll put them in client experience. Yeah, because like if you're gonna ask someone to give you a Zillow review, you have to go on to your Zillow page and there's this cute little like link. It's an address to click and go to. And they have to have an account with Zillow. But if they have been shopping with Zillow, it's very highly likely that they have an account, right? So yeah. So there's all kinds of other stuff in here. There's a different format, like instead of that congrats on your accepted offer, there's one that's more like a PDF, which you could actually take and make a picture, how you like hyperlink, you can insert it into the text of your email instead of just attaching it. But this is one where you would fill out, who are the parties? So who's the lender, who's the seller, who's the buyer? So this way, if you send this to the title rep, they know who all the other parties are, or if you send it to the listing agent, they know who everyone is. The offer was written on, it was accepted on, and here's the price. The earnest money is, and it's due on this date. So this is another version. If you like this format better, this is where it needs to look like you, right? Because it's your business.
Is it in client experience also? or
It is, it's right there. Yep. So it's right here. It's KW dates. Copy of KW dates. You just have to look around in here and open and close stuff. One of the other things that I'll show you in here is the Buyers Wow campaign. There's another one that's called Sellers Wow. But this is, instead of waiting until the end and we get to closing, and I'm gonna give you a Cutco spatula spreader that was $120, right? Instead of just giving them one big thing, what about sprinkling some love throughout the transaction, right? So you start working with them, they sign the buyer agency, you set up a search portal, you had your buyer consultation, and you went out and you had your first showing, right? You could send a thank you card with a $5 Starbucks in it. Then this is, again, it's kind of another little checklist for you. Okay, so I'm gonna add them to my database. I'm gonna add them to, if you have a newsletter, you have a what's next email. This goes out after the accepted offer. So we've already looked at that. You add them to your contingency deadlines, right? So you have your closing date, you want your title commitment, you're gonna send them a moving checklist 2 weeks prior to closing. I have a moving checklist on my desk and I wanted to put it in the client experience, so I will do that. I know it's somewhere in my documents too, but since I'm on the lab's computer, I won't be able to find it. So I will add that one for you. That's in my notes. Okay. You're going to confirm the closing time and location. You're going to confirm that you have a loan commitment. What do you guys have to do with loan commitment?
Review your offer? Or approval of funds or?
That's your pre-approval.
Okay.
So in your offer, you're writing, this offer's subject to financing and the loan commitment is due within X number of days from acceptance. So what do you have to do with the loan commitment?
So that the title company know that it's, everything's okay.
You do,
Got the commitment by the right date.
right, but more importantly, per the offer to purchase, you have to show the seller that you have received your official loan commitment letter from the bank saying that you are officially approved to purchase this house. Not just I'm pre-approved, but I can buy this house. We have the appraisal, we have title, and all of my documents have been turned in and I've been underwritten. So you have to get loan commitment. Usually the loan officer is not sending this to you. So you need to let your buyer know. You're going to get a loan commitment letter from your loan officer. I need it. Send it to me immediately. Here's the date that it's due. So you need to be watching your loan commitment deadline. It needs to be in your calendar. And you need to be calling this lender like 4 days in advance and saying, how you doing? How are things going? Oh my gosh, we're so far behind. We don't even have the appraisal yet. I don't even know if the guy's been out to the house. Okay, some bells should be going off in your head. And you're gonna need to extend your loan commitment deadline. Because what can happen if you don't submit loan commitment by the deadline set forth within the financing?
You're in breach of contract.
You're in breach of contract and they can cancel you and go accept someone else. So if they have a secondary buyer waiting in the wings, which is common these days, because you got 8 offers on every house, buyers are so desperate, they'll like, I'll write a secondary offer, I'll wait, I'll pray that, Nikki's deal falls apart. And you're waiting and you're hoping, on the pivot shift call this morning, somebody just announced like, yeah, I did a backup offer and I waited 3 weeks, but then we got it. So like that lady's all happy, but somebody lost a transaction, So they, you have to send the loan commitment along with, do you guys know what other document has to be paired with it?
We all have.
No, the loan commitment letter, you have your buyer sign it and you need permission to deliver loan commitment.
But you're delivering it to the listing agent.
You're delivering it to the listing agent. So you get it from the lender. You have them, I think I'm gonna do a video on this. I'm gonna do a video about loan commitment because it's so important. And permission to deliver. Okay, so you cannot just grab the loan commitment and send it over to the listing agent because it's not yours to give. It's not your financing to release. Let's say that Steph's trying to buy a house, and I'm just picking on you because you're in the front row. So Steph's trying to buy a house, and your loan commitment is conditional. And it says that you need one more pay stub proving $1,200 biweekly. And you need a receipt of a paid collection for your dentist of $300. Do you want the seller to see that? No, it's not their business, right? But if you don't have those items and your loan commitment deadline is today, and this is the only loan commitment document we have, and we can't get an extension, she's gonna have to sign and give me permission because otherwise we could lose the house. So I need to talk with her and I need to say, hey, like, we could be at risk of breach of contract if they have another buyer waiting. I understand it's your personal information, but you know, per our offer to purchase, which is a legally binding contract, it says that we have to prove that your financing is satisfied. And as long as you get a pay stub Friday, I mean, it's Tuesday, you're gonna get it Friday, but the deadline expires tonight at 11:59 p.m. And when are you gonna get the receipt from the dentist? Well, I get paid Friday, I'm gonna go pay it Monday, and I'll have the receipt Monday afternoon. Well, then we need to, because it's likely that the seller isn't gonna give us more time for pulling these documents. Because should we have known this? I don't know, you know, who knows? But if it's the lender and the lender's having an issue and they're backed up and the appraiser hasn't gotten the report in, then I need to call that co-broke as soon as possible and say, hey, I'm gonna be sending you an extension, the lender's behind, the appraisal wasn't in yet, like they're calling for her verification of employment, you know, because everybody's working remotely, HR isn't answering, she's trying to get her boss to give us a direct number for someone instead of the 800 number, you know, we're getting it worked out, but you have to show this co-broke that like it's being worked on, we're on top of it, not just like, oh, I don't know, the lender isn't communicating to me and like, we're just gonna need an extension, like that's not gonna fly very well, right? So that's where you can drip nice thank you cards and notes and little gifts throughout the transaction. And they're gonna feel, you know, so blessed and attended to throughout their deal. So you send, you know, like a congrats card after the accepted offer. Maybe you wait. Maybe you send a congrats card after the home inspection negotiations and you write in the card, thank you for allowing me to, you know, handle the inspection negotiations on your behalf. Because you're pointing out, like, I did this, I won this deal, right? Like, so you find a success and you celebrate it. So this is just walking through like all the things that you can do to kind of do the wow with your clients. I just want to make sure that we get to all the other pages that I wanted to show you.
So when they do if they are getting a secondary offer,
Uh-huh.
do they need to tell you that?
Yes. So if someone has well, not necessarily. So if they have just a backup, you know, they don't have to, but like, so if you write this crazy home inspection amendment and they're just like, yeah, no, like, we're not gonna take this, we're not doing these, we have a backup buyer. Like, so if they're going to take, if you have any kind of bump, you know, which is not common today, like if you had a home sale contingency, then obviously they tell you because they accept it and then they're trying to bump you. But if they're just taking a backup, there's no bump. So there's not really a reason to tell you, but a lot of agents will use it to like threaten you and say like, don't come asking me for anything after this home inspection is done because, you know, we've got someone sitting here waiting. And they'll do that even if they don't have backups. They'll just say like, well, we had 8 offers. like, we don't have to do this stuff to, to the house. Okay, well, guess what? If we walk away from this, you now have to disclose that all these items were found. So your seller's gonna need to do a redisclosure of their real estate condition report. And, and if they don't, you're gonna have to do a written document disclosing that you're aware. So have fun with that.
Yeah.
Like, you throw it right back. I mean, that's not how we should, we shouldn't be working tit for tat, but that's how some people operate.
So that was gonna be one of my questions too, when you were talking about inspections. So if the buyer does walk away, it does have to be legally, a new one has to be put out on the MLS, right?
Yes, but we're not the babysitters of that. So, because I've had this question multiple times where like you were in the deal and let's say that Tanika was the lister. Okay, now I'm gonna pick on her. So she was the lister. Your buyer and her seller couldn't work things out. So you leave the transaction. And now you see Tanika's listing is reactive, on the market, back on market. And you don't know who's going and looking at it, but you're like, that Tanika, she didn't put out a new real estate condition report. She doesn't have a document showing what else is out there. She says deal fell apart based on financing. It wasn't financing for my buyer. It was their inspection. What can you do? You're not her manager. You're not babysitting her. You can't go stand out in front of that house going, hey, here's a copy of the home inspection that my buyer had. And do you know how ugly it is? And her seller didn't redisclose because you don't know. Tanika could be being a really good agent and she could be writing up, material adverse facts that she's aware of. And she could be emailing it to every agent that schedules a showing. So at the first opportunity of interest, she needs to make me aware that there's a problem or that she's aware of a potential issue, right? So she could be emailing me, but she didn't publish it in MLS. So you don't know what she is or is not doing. And that's where I've had this question thousands of times where an agent was in the deal and now they're like out for blood and they want to correct that listing agent because they're not doing it right. That's not our responsibility.
Well, what if you have a buyer that has interest in that place and she hasn't done anything? Like you're obligated, aren't you obligated in some way?
Yeah, for sure. So like, okay, so if it's Nikki, let's say Nikki's working with the Smiths and the Smiths cancel out of this transaction. But now the Johnsons come along with Nikki and Nikki's aware. Well, then Nikki has to make disclosure. If Tanika does or does not, if Nikki's aware, Nikki needs to make disclosure to her own clients. I mean, what are the odds that Nikki has
Verbally or in
to-
writing?
verbally, because you're not the lister, you don't have, I mean, you would just tell them, hey, like, here's what I know about this house. I had a previous client who was in a transaction on this. And when we go there, this agent should be giving us disclosure.
Right.
But it's not your inspection report to give, it was the Smiths. So it's a weird, it's very, it would be like 1 in 1,000 that you would have 2 buyers for Tanika's same house, right?
I was just curious, because there's a house in Pewaukee that they had a buyer, and then I noticed it went back on the market, so that was
Yeah,
clearly due to inspection, but nothing's been put out there.
yeah, I mean, and
So-
we don't know, I mean, it's hard to chase all of that. One of the things I wanted to show you before we end up running out of time, is in the buyer consultation. There's a couple of things. One, and I always forget which one it's in, so bear with me and then I'll tell you where it is. Because I have 2 documents of hers in here and I want to make sure it's the right. Okay, yeah, so in, it's called Copy of Douglas Buyer's Consultation. Page 2 of it is an FHA appraisal red flag list. And this was just made in Canva. and it just has her name at the bottom. So I'm sure you could replicate this page very easily. But if you're dealing with a first-time buyer and the only loan that they can get approved for is FHA, you need to know what is not going to be acceptable for FHA, okay? So that's one thing. So that's in copy of Douglas. Then if you go into copy of Sosa, I don't know who that is. Okay, there's a couple pages in here that you can rip off and repeat. You can, I mean, really, you can rip off the whole thing. I don't care. Just again, you're gonna do file, make a copy of, and then, and I was talking with Tanika about this yesterday, I think. I don't know if you can just, I'm not sure how Google Slides works. Like, can you just pop your picture in here? Like, can you replace it, or can you put your logo? I don't know how that works, but you could easily replicate this page. There's, if you do format, like, and if you do like new slide, there's themes. So you could take a page and you could like copy the theme from that page, and then you could like do some editing on it. But I only have 3 pages in the whole thing that has my face on it. But you know, like buyer consultation, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But so I took the NAR 1-pager and I made it 2 pages. And I, you know, just made it very clear that it's from the National Association of Realtors. And I made it in red and gray, you know, in KW colorings. One of the things that's important, and this was kind of on, this was on Carrie's, on the Douglas team too. Fees, money, you know, client experience. You don't want to go out with someone and they're pre-approved for 150,000. And they're like, okay, I have my 3% down or my 3.5% down. That's all I need, right? You go out, you write an offer, and then you're sitting down with them and you're like, so how much are you putting down? And they're like, what? Like, I have to have a down payment? Huh? Like, yeah, you're approved, but your loan says you need 3.5% down. What? How much is that? Like, I don't know. Like, so one, you need to make sure that they have their down payment. Sometimes, and this happened to an agent of ours, like maybe a year ago, but they had their down payment, but they didn't know that they need all this other stuff, right? There's prepaids, there's closing costs, there's lender fees, there's the inspection, there's the appraisal. You need like $4,000 beside your down payment. And if someone doesn't know that, why are you leaving your family at dinner time and going out and showing properties and writing offers? They have their down payment, but they don't have the other $4,000 that they need. Now you have an accepted offer. They do their inspection, they do their appraisal, and now a week before closing, they get their, because they don't read their loan disclosures. The loan officer doesn't talk to them about, here's all the money you need when there is a good faith estimate, but they don't discuss it. Buyers don't read stuff. And so here's where it's not your job, but it's your responsibility. Like, you get within a week of closing and someone finds out that they need to bring $9,500 to closing and they thought they needed $4,500, that's a problem. And now you can't close because you have insufficient funds. Like, what? So money, you need to cover it, right? The other big one, this is probably like my favorite thing to go over with buyers. Print it out, put it in a folder for them. Let them follow along. You know, let them check off where, okay, so I saw on our chart, we're here now. So this is gonna happen next, right? Yeah, great. Like now they're with you. Now they understand why you're asking for this or why this is important. Why is there a deadline? So what happens, you know? So this is like key, you know, these are awesome, client experience. The other thing, you know, like I was talking about with this girl, if her agent had some financial do's and some financial don'ts, I love these because they're like stop sign and green for go, you know, like, but if the agent had talked to that girl about, don't buy anything. I had a buyer once call me and they're like, okay, so Colders is having a big sale this weekend, like, and I have to go. I'm like, no, you can't do it. But you don't understand. Like, if I buy a bed, I can literally get my sofa for free. I'm like, okay, so you're gonna be sleeping on the bed, but I don't know where you're gonna be, because you're not gonna be in your house. It's gonna affect your debt to income ratio unless you go and you specifically talk to your loan officer and he tells you, you have so much income that your DTI, your debt to income ratio is 20, and you have so much that you can spend before you would get near like 36 or 40, you know, whatever they want their max is for the loan program. You can go spend $4,000 and it won't affect you.
How often does
I'll
that
take
happen?
that client.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? But this girl who bought the $3,000 timeshare had a $121 payment, almost lost a house. They were able to remedy it by having mom pay it off. And it took 10 business days over Christmas to get the receipt from Wyndham Resorts and Timeshare, because they're not local. And of course, they had to wait for it to process in the system. And then it took BMO Harris like another 8 days to get the file re-underwritten. And my sellers, I didn't finish telling you the story, my sellers who were in the middle, they were a monkey in the middle. So they were trying to sell to her. And then the seller on the other end, sweet old couple, they had already left their home, so it was vacant. They already were set up in their new condo, had a Christmas tree, okay? They're in this lovely new place, and they should be just at peace that, like, okay, we're not closing tomorrow, but we can close in 21 days. No. So my people have a baby whose first birthday was like 5 days away. It's like between the closing and Christmas. And they have 2 dogs, and they had way too much stuff for their tiny West Dallas home. They're living in boxes piled high because they have a truck coming tomorrow. They have moving friends and family coming tomorrow. They now cannot move. Okay? They're going to have like a sad Christmas. They're living in boxes. They have to figure out where things are to unpack so that they can get dressed tomorrow, right? Like, and seller is being so difficult. You're going to close 12/31, or I'm putting the house back on the market. Well, what? Come on, we're closing January 7th. We're talking about a difference of 7 days. No one knows my struggles. No one knows what I'm going through. Just belligerent. I have to pay my real estate taxes. So I'm talking with the co-broker and I'm going, you could make the first installment of the real estate taxes in January. So you don't have to pay the real estate, because he had to pull money now. He had to move money and borrow money and shift something. I'm going, I understand that maybe he had to pay off something because he was planning that we were going to close on this day. He already was angry because he wanted us to move our closing from the 17th to the 15th. Keep this in mind when you're scheduling closings, because he didn't want to pay his December 1st mortgage, because you get 15-day grace. So if we close by the 15th, his loan will get paid off on the 15th. And he didn't actually need to make a payment because there's no late fee if you pay the loan in full by the end of your 15-day grace period. So not only did we have to pay him for the time from the 17th to the 31st, but we had to pay him retro back to December 1st and cover his whole December mortgage payment just to get him to allow us to close by December 31st. So it's December 17th. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm trying to get Landmark Credit Union, where they were financing through, on the phone, trying to figure out what we can do. What are their options? So finally over the weekend, I'm talking with my buyers and I'm like, all right, do mom and dad have any money that's accessible? Like if it's in a CD or something, it can take 2 to 3 weeks to get. Do they have cash? Do they have money? Can you guys scrape up enough for your down payment? Can we close with this guy? So let's call Landmark at 9:04 on Monday morning and see, can they turn this thing around? So now it's the, I don't know, like 18th. no, the 20th, something 20th or 21st. So we had to close within 10 days over the holidays, and we had to get the file re-underwritten where they were holding their house, not selling it, not paying it off, not taking out a home equity, but borrowing money from mom and dad, getting a gift, and then you can't just get a gift and deposit it. Like, that's not kosher, right? So on my don'ts here is don't deposit money that's untraceable. So you have to have permission from the lender. You have to know how they want it. Some lenders just want mom and dad to wire the money directly to the title company. That's it. You typically have to get mom and dad's bank account statement to show that mom and dad actually had the money. Some parents are like, I'm not giving you my bank statement. Well, then you can't gift him the money because like, I can't prove that it's not coming from the seller and we're just pretending that it's coming from you. You know, there's all these things. So if you can give your client the education up front, don't do any of these things, it's going to be a better overall client experience because they're not going to hit major bumps and bruises. You know, now if you're on the seller side, hopefully you got a good co-broke on the other end of the table because you can't control some of those things, right? Like I couldn't control the girl who went and got a timeshare. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't the agent's fault necessarily, but could she have done something to help? Maybe, you know, you got to just kind of look around in here because there's great stuff. The other one I'm going to show you is in the listing folder. I think this one is out in the main. It's not in the PC group. Where is it? I was just in here yesterday. I thought it was called listing presentations, not win listings. Let me go back into PC and double check. Yep, it is. It's in here. Listing presentations. Okay, so in here, who was anyone here for Jackie Boyd's class? It was on Pi Day, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. You weren't here? Okay. Nikki, you weren't here for that? Oh gosh. All right. If you go on mctechresources.com, which of course is the everything website, you can get to the Talkify calendar, you can get to the one spot, but at the bottom, you can get to the YouTube channel. Actually, guess what? I have the listing, her classes right here. Nah, but all of our classes are on the YouTube channel. So all of these that we record on Tuesdays are in our YouTube channel. I download them and then pop them in there. But Jackie's I put right here and it's ready for you. You should watch this one. It's phenomenal. Jackie is the lead listing agent on Scott and Jeremy's team. Jeremy does listings too. But besides Jeremy, you know, she's their like primary lister. She's got a listing packet. This is like a pre-listing. So she goes and drops this stuff off in advance. But what I want to show you is this here, which is the third Jackie document. It's called Jackie Presentation. In here, again, talking about the client experience. She does a pre-qualifying process. Normally when you think about, oh, I'm going to pre-qualify someone, that's like a pre-approval. I'm going to run numbers and check and see what you can qualify for. This is a seller pre-qualifying script where you see what is the seller's motivation? What is the seller's real desire to sell their home? You know, why do they want to sell? Like if we have to drop the price, you know, or if they and I have a different number in mind, are they going to trust the numbers that I'm showing them by the factual data? So these are questions that you can ask them. She talks through over the phone with sellers. And this is kind of like a Jeff Glover. If you hear about Glover U, some of the group from ALC or even the group that went to Family Reunion, they'll go to like Glover events. Jeff Glover came here last year and I did a class after that on 21 ways to get listings. So just different things that we can be out there doing.
There's other versions of this out on.
Yeah, so there are, that's where, so Jeff Glover basically has this kind of a seller qualifier. It's in like the bold scripts, or if you look at any of the script dialogue things, it's gonna be, out in there. So you're just talking with them, you're asking them questions. Then, here's like understanding the whys behind, what about their objections? Understanding, being able to answer their objections. This is going through behavioral styles. So, knowing like what type of person you're dealing with. One of the sellers I'm dealing right now is very high D. And so I have to work, with that, right? Okay, so pre-appointment preparation, this is just getting the listing materials, getting ready. There's different script dialogues in here. So there's a lot of things in here to help you get ready and prepared for a listing. And with this market, listings are where it's at. We could be running with buyers for a long time. We could, except for Tanika, who meets a buyer at the house because they're interested in it. They love it. She writes an offer for them and it gets accepted. So, whoop, whoop, way to go, Tanika. First transaction under her belt. But, if we can get the listing, if we can be calling our database, if we can be connecting with people, if we can be doing Facebook ads and going after these listings, if we know the material, if we've mastered this, then it'll be easier for you. So here's rules of handling objections. Don't argue, agree. I understand. Or, tell me more about that. Tell me why that's important to you. So have them expand on it, and you get to uncover that that's not really what's important. Like your commission, what you get paid is not really the important question. It's how much are they going to net? That's really what they're after. They want as much as they can net as possible. And they think that by chopping your salary, they're going to get more. And that's not always the truth. Because if you're worth your commission, you're going to net them what they want and still get yourself paid your 6% plus your $295 for the broker admin fee. And you're going to show them that this other person who came in and offered to do it for 4.5 or for whatever number was not very well demonstrating their negotiation skills. They were showing that they were willing to give away their own income and potentially give away your income, right? Because seller, if you want to yield the most, if they aren't good at negotiating for themselves, are they going to negotiate well for you? Are they going to negotiate to get you the highest and best price? Are they going to negotiate again when it comes to home inspection and fight for that this is not a defect? My seller doesn't need to do this. We're going to do these things. You have to be able to stand up for what's rightfully yours. Not be argumentative about it, but just show, here's the seller net sheet. Is this a number that you'd be happy with? Then if so, if I can yield you more money than that other person because they can't negotiate, then will you be content with this bottom line? Then does it really matter what I get paid? Does my compensation, enter into the equation? Right? So, it's looking through these objections. Here, this is good. Practice objection handling 30 to 60 minutes a day. Write out objection handlers for 30 days straight. Keep track of new objections you receive. Keep all objections on a poster board while you are prospecting. 3x5 cards in front, objections on the back. Always strive to find a role play partner that is hard on you or better than you. It's okay if a few aren't. I saw that look. It's good that you guys have each other. Once you have an objection handler mastered, master another. So, it's important to be, script practicing. So she's got a lot of great material in this. And this is why I wanted to just take time, because mastering the seller is going to be critical in giving yourself a raise, right? You can make 2.4 on this side, but you can make 3.6 on this side. Which would you rather have? You might be driving around, 40 different showings and 8 offers on this side. You're going to list and you're going to go and handle all these phone calls and all these texts, and you're going to screen 30 offers. but, you know, which is gonna be more time invested, you know? So I forget what the stats were, but I think it was like, on average, a listing is like 8 hours, which I don't believe, because I think it's more than that. But on average, a listing is like 8 hours, and on average, a buyer is maybe like 36 hours. So for the time investment, now, some of us feel like buyers are fun, and we love working with buyers. I mean, my business is still 50-50. So I kind of like doing both, but it's just, how do you want to build your business? So the client experience on the seller side is going to be mastered by going through a lot of this material. Okay. What else did I want to show you? Wow. Oh, seller net proceeds. Do you guys all have the Focus Title app on your phones? Has everybody gone through calculating a seller net? Everybody know how to calculate a seller net? Let's do it. I'm gonna grab my phone
I
here.
know that Allison said she had a sheet that she filled out, but I thought she was gonna put it in the one spot, but I just checked.
Yeah, okay, let me go back to client experience. Alex Dinamarca has one in here. Oh, where did we go? Open Sesame. Well, maybe it was in the seller. Wonder if it was in the listing presentation folder. I just saw it. Yeah, let me go in there. mm. Okay, right here. So yeah, under listing presentations, underneath the PC group resources folder, it's under estimated proceeds sheet. So it's right here in the second column. It's right next to all of Jackie's documents, so it'll be really easy for you to find. So if we open this one up, this is one that you can use, like if you want to calculate out like 3 different scenarios. But so he's got the address here, calculate the estimated proceeds, fill in the numbers in blue. So he's got it here where he's just gonna put these numbers in, and then it's gonna calculate out the rest of it for him. And then if they have a first mortgage, or if they're giving the buyer a closing cost credit, you can put that in. But do you guys all have your Focus Title apps? Okay, so if we open my stuff just shifted around, so I have to find where mine is.
Steph, where did you end up putting?
Calculators, sell to net, or no?
Hang on one second. This sheet is
Yeah.
Alex's. It's in PC Group Resources,
Yep.
listing presentations, and it's called estimated proceeds. It's right next door to Jackie's video. It's the black screen where it has the play button on it.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
So if you go to your Focus Title app, we're gonna do it so we're all doing it together. What?
I said I have done this now that I see, I forgot.
Okay,
It's weird that they don't focus agent. on.
yep. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is click on the little flag at the bottom for seller. Because we don't want to be doing a buyer calculation right now, right? So we click on seller. Let's make up an example. We're gonna sell for 300,000. So in your top line, you're gonna put 300. Loan type is conventional. The broker fee is 6%. Repairs, you can leave that as 0. Or if you think you know that they're gonna have to do $1,000 in repairs, you can put that in. Under miscellaneous, here's what I do. I type 295. Why do I do that?
Covered for-
I want to have that covered, right? Now, property taxes, yours says 1.856%, right? What does it say?
2.58.
Oh, you must be in a different county. Okay, this is why I don't like the percentage. So click on that, and then you'll see a little slide where you can move over to dollars. So click dollars,
Okay.
and then you're gonna do the backup button and you're gonna delete. And then let's say the taxes are $32.50. Okay, and then let's say that, and again, if you're using Alex's thing, just so I don't forget to do this, before you start changing any numbers in here, make a copy. I don't want anybody messing, if he's got formulas and stuff built in this thing. You know, if Stephanie wants to use it and Yvette changed numbers and it changed the formulas, like, we don't want that to happen, because then it won't work and he has to reload it. Okay, so loan balance, let's say they owe 82.5. And their interest rate was 3.25. And we're gonna close on April 19th. And then you're gonna hit the big blue bar at the bottom that says compute. And for net to close, what do you guys have?
195, 439.
You should have 195, 400 something.
What did we say the taxes were?
Taxes were 32.50. So the house was 300,000. Their interest rate was 3.25. They owed 82.5. Taxes were 32.50. We put in the charge of $295 under miscellaneous. And we closed on April 19th. So you should, I got 195, 461. So I don't know how Nikki got $39, but it's okay. You're within range, right? So now, did you see, we did this in like 1 minute, right? You can do this at someone's kitchen table. Now, if you hit up top, there's a piece of paper with an arrow coming out of it. That's your share button, right? So you hit share. I want you guys to all email this to yourselves. So the share option comes up. There's a little pop-up and it'll say send full report. So click on that option. And then you have to, unfortunately, you have to hit the share button again up at the top. It gives you like a picture of the full report. If you have in your profile on Focus Agent One, if you have your cute little face in there, your picture will come up on this report. If you have the KW logo in there, the logo will come up on the report. It's going to all be branded to you. But you hit the share button again, and then you click email. And then if you're using Gmail, you know, or you use like the blue regular mail, but I always click Gmail, and then, you know, just type in your email address and send it to yourself. Hi. Okay. All right, so now you guys can share that. What I'll do if I want to do one before I go to an appointment is I'll email it to myself and I'll print it out. Or I can email it to myself and then I can forward it to the client. Okay, so then you guys know what these look like, and then you'll know how to do that. So practice those, right? Like you're gonna do practice open house, do a practice seller net sheet, and you know, do some scenarios, send it to, you know, someone in your family and give an example so that they can look at your work. Okay. With that, I'm going to stop our screen share and stop our Zoom. Bye, everyone.